Well, so we have to look at the newspapers. Mamavi, good morning.
Good morning. You guys
Nice to see
good?
you guys.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
It's good to see you. You've been missing for a while.
I have. But it's great to be back. I missed
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah.
I hope
We
you've
missed
been
you too.
behaving.
Yeah, we're okay. We're comporting.
Coming from Roland is kind of hard to believe. But
I can imagine.
I'll take your word for
Myself,
it.
yeah, take it. When I
Yeah,
said it, I
yeah.
was
A lot
wondering.
going on, though.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
commission
quite a lot.
searching.
My goodness,
Yeah.
the commission is plowing ahead. Yesterday, I quite enjoyed. I don't know if enjoyed is the right word, but I found myself
I think
captivated by the testimony of the crime officer.
of easily gone.
Yes, the lady. I think her surname is Kwabena. I found myself. I couldn't, switch off. There was a certain level of detail to her, testimony, and I found myself asking fresh questions. Like she preserved evidence on the scene, right? That's what she said. She had to preserve evidence on the scene. What happened to that evidence? Where is it?
No, she had to preserve until the
Crime scene, yes.
The crime scene people got there.
So the crime scene people have been there, I'm assuming. All right. Yeah, so what evidence was it that was preserved? And what does it tell us? And why is it that this impression is being created that the police have actually stalled their investigation? And from even her own testimony, you can tell that it doesn't appear to be moving along. She has handed it over to a superior, but even her own checks for updates have yielded little by way of information. And she's in the police. So you can imagine how little those who made the complaints would have received by now. So I found it interesting. Sam George, of course, was engaging. Yeah, quite a born storyteller, isn't he? Yeah. He
Had all his narrations on point.
He certainly let the
I heard
he
some
let the
people
tail
say,
weave.
oh, he was asked the same questions over and over and over, and some people were hoping that they would get like a change in the response. Man was there, right? Yeah, you didn't expect that he would change anything.
No, but even the consistent narrative he gave kind of makes us ask a few questions. You know? For example, he talks about the reason why he boldly walked up to those officers, or those national security operatives in the vehicle. And he says that, well, as far as he was aware, well-trained officers would never put him in danger over mere words. Mere words would not cause well-trained officers to attack him.
Which is true.
But this is the same person who says he just saw a few minutes ago these same well-trained officers beating someone to death in his own home. He saw that minutes ago.
I thought he explained the beating someone to death bits.
Yes, that's what he thought.
The person wasn't dead after all.
But that is what he thought he had seen.
Yeah.
So at the time he was walking up to these men, feeling safe and protected in their good training, he believed he had just seen these well-trained men kill someone. That's what he believed. But he still felt he was safe walking up to them and pointing fingers at them. That's just one of many things he said that I found interesting. But
well, we'll find other angles in the newspaper, so let's begin.
All right.
I've got the Daily Graphic newspaper, front page. NaBCo detects 3,807 beneficiaries. NaBCo detects fraud. And the detail is that 3,807 beneficiaries enroll on other programs. 1,702 already gainfully employed. Details of that on page 3. And I remember when NaBCo was being launched, this was one of the critical questions that we kept asking. How do you ensure that people are not, on this and on other things as well? Teacher unions raise red flag over government's plans to privatize public education. And then from the ongoing Commission of Inquiry hearing, strange crowd, and that's in quotes, at Ayawaso West Wagon violence, Emil Shot Commission says. On the back page, 13 doctors refuse postings to the central region. And then the Ghana National Fire Service sensitizes traders at Tema Station to fire safety. and the center spread. Okay, well, if you have an interest, then you can check it out. It has something to do with glycolife. Okay, that's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper by way of headlines.
Okay, I'll do the Ghanaian Times. Front page looks a bit like this morning. Oh, I really hate this finicky thing of holding up newspapers, but what can we do? There you are. That's what the front page is looking like this morning. And the headlines, banner headline, Pre-Tertiary Education Unions Protest, Implementation of Ghana Partnership Schools Project. And then President inaugurates Ghana's first foreign policy think tank. Former Unibank director discharged and charges against him dropped. Okay. Ghana security in safe hands, according to Kojo Opong Nkrumah, the Minister for Information. I don't know how many of you agree. Cabinet approves $20 million loan facility for UER Hospital. And Lands Commission takes delivery of 2 mapping drones. That's the Ghanaian Times.
All right, let's look at the Daily Guide newspaper. Has on the front page, Edua Mankwa detained in Zimbabwe. And we also have Ayawaso Commission NDC lawyer bounced as some jaw changes story. Yao Donko denies NCA gang. We also have 100,000 housing units coming. A picture there of Sydney Affairs presenting the MOU to an official of the Turkish firm, just reading the caption. And that's all I'm doing, basically. We go to the center spread. The center spread, and use one polar, they call it. It's got a number of stories there. So let me just quickly just take a look at them. It says UK pledges more investments in Ghana. Keen USA students win housing challenge, and 1D, 1 Air factory takes shape in Tano North. It's a good one there. Meanwhile, Yvonne Nelson, Okoro, and Jackie appear to reunite after 10 years. Yeah, well, they're starring in a movie together. We're told this will come. They last starred in Foreplay Reloaded. That was way back in 2010. It's one of the favorites local movies for Kojo at the time.
I've never watched it.
Foreplay Reloaded. I thought last night you told me about it. Back page of the Daily Guide, Foreplay Reloaded. That's not what's there. This is there. Finish.
I can't imagine that you guys discuss movies like Foreplay Reloaded. I can't even begin to imagine that.
You know Roland is being mischievous.
Finish NSA with Database Association heads told.
First time hearing the title.
And CK Akono pledges to fix defense as Kotoko returns home. Remember, they lost the first leg as they visited their Zambian opponents in Kana FC in the African Confederations Cup over the weekend, 3-1. Don't know how they were going to do that.
Let's do the Finder front page. Jail OEC commissioners over failure to provide ROPA constitutional instrument. The lawyer leading this charge, Samson Ladiayenini at A Partners at Law, on the front page alongside the EC chairperson, Jean Mensah. Details of that in the Finder today. NPA signs safety declaration with oil and LPG marketing companies. First Ghanaian drone company receives commercial certificate to operate. And benefit of RTI law outweigh cost of implementation, according to the coalition pushing for the implementation of this. And for the first time, I guess, in a very long while, I don't even know if I should add a long while, for the first time, for a lot of us, we actually didn't know that Parliament does research, you know, when a bill comes up before it gets implemented. Well, maybe they do, but how often do we hear them actually give figures and say that, oh, it's too much and it's going to cost the Ghanaians so much? You know, still only RTI, right?
Yeah. All right, I have the Daily Statesman. It looks a bit like this morning. Yeah, there you go. Statesman. Okay. Banner headline, NDC plots to smear EC boss. Ofosu Ampofo, Haruna Idrisu Ugbami hatch plan against Jean Mensah. Now, there are some tapes making the rounds, allegedly, of these 3 individuals speaking at a meeting where all kinds of things are said. The Daily Statesman focuses on the aspect of this tape where there is a plot, allegedly, to smear the EC boss. But there's a lot more said on those tapes, which we are yet to authenticate. So I don't know if I should really go into what else is said on them. But you know, they're very scandalous, to be honest. And yeah, well, once authenticated, I'm sure a lot of conversation will spark from them. But anyway, also on the front page of the Daily Statesman, religion has created confusion in Ghana. You'll never guess who's saying that. Most Reverend Kwesi Sapong. Also on the front page, UK poised to invest more in Ghana, and this is some of the outcomes of the meetings that the Vice President has been having in the UK over the past few days. I think they're there for one more day. So far, quite a lot has come out of it. He's there with a number of other ministers, including Alan Chamanting, Minister for Trade and Industry, and Papa Uso Ankuma, of course, who's the High Commissioner in the UK, is there with them, and the boss of the Ghana Investment Promotion Council, Authority, Center. Yofi Grant. Yeah. So yes, they're busy out there trying to attract investment to Ghana.
Okay. We have the Daily Dispatch newspaper has on the front page focus on ICT in Central, Ashanti and Greater Accra. Then we also have other stories. We do not care if you choose an economist or not. And Ghanaians to Mahama. Samia Uku tells MPP Mahama will not be a walkover in 2020. MPA launches safety campaign. 77.4% of LPG stations are high risk, apparently, in this new study. So you just have to just get a copy of the Daily Dispatch newspaper.
Let's do the Today. Front page of the Today, Adekoka scolded Sam George. And this has to do with the incidents in Pram during the NDC primaries to elective flag bearer. Sam George essentially accusing Adekoka and the constituency chairman of trying to get names in for people to vote when they were not on the original register. Ken Des Anas over Galamsey expose, court declares EDDT credible. So essentially, those are the stories by way of headlines on the front page of the Today newspaper.
All right.
All right. The Independent, as usual, has that tradition of the one big picture on the front page. And today it's of the Vice President and his team who are in the UK seeking some, to attract some investments to the country. Right. Now, also, the headlines are UK ready to increase investments in Ghana, according to the British Minister for Africa. And government moves to outlaw the use of changfang by miners. And these are the floating platforms that they used to mine in shallow waters. And indeed, they are responsible for quite a lot of pollution. So the government is now moving to outlaw them. So they are currently legal. Is that the point? That's shocking. That's shocking. But there you go. It's to protect our water bodies, according to the government.
Okay. So, any pick we want to make at all?
Do you know, this Changfang thing is bringing to mind something that I stumbled upon yesterday. The Ghana Standards Authority were doing a routine check of an enclave of warehouses that they spotted, and they're so cleverly hidden, these warehouses. There's a little enclave somewhere along the Ibri Medina Road. If you're coming from Ibri, it'll be on your right. And it's got a small entrance, but when you go in, there are 18 very long warehouses, you know, with the arched roofs, 18 units in a row. Now, they discovered that in 2 of those units, some illegal activity was going on. In the first one, they were bringing in what looked like used gas cylinders. They were scraping off some detail from them and then respraying them and selling them on the market. And I can assure you that chances of all of us having gas cylinders like this in our homes,
or default,
very high chance that we all have one of these in our homes, because they are selling in bulk, large numbers, shipping them on a daily basis from this location. The second factory disturbed me even more. In this factory, and by the way, both of these are owned by Chinese people. One of them owned by a Chinese and a Ghanaian, actually. But the second one, these people import plastic pellets disguised as corn. So it comes in these Ghanaian, some Ghanaian brand, yellow maize, but when you open them, it's black plastic pellets. They melt them, turn them into the black plastic bags that we see and use and that choke our drains. Okay. They are making them in the hundreds of thousands daily in this place. It's a warehouse, no windows, no ventilation. It's boiling hot. There's massive machinery working. There are about 30 to 40 Ghanaians, mostly women, working in this place, sweating, breathing in the cancerous plastic fumes, no protective gear, nothing. And they are paid 10 cedis a day for 12-hour shifts. Now they store the plastic products in these
sacks.
No, actually,
the plastic
baskets.
Okay.
And there is a sign on the wall that if you are seen on the CCTV dragging the basket, you'll be fined 10 cedis. So a day's wages.
That you want to steal it?
No. So? If you drag it, you damage the basket. So the basket is worth more to the employer than the employees.
So what the standard authority
wages. Well, they've shut the place down. They shut it down, and of course, other institutions need to step in. Not just the police. ECG needs to step in because the wiring, shocking. I could see what you would see on a pylon cable, you know, those round things that they wind the cables around and extend from one pylon to another. That's what they have used to extend electricity across this warehouse. Thick wires that they have then diverted to light switches and all sorts of things. It is scarily dangerous. And all of this is happening right here in Accra. This is one location in Oyarifa.
We have a replica of many of them around.
There might be quite a few.
And that leads us to the standards as to how we tend to import some of these
things. You see, this Changfang thing, what it's reminding me of is the fact that the Chinese are using our nation for whatever they like. And it appears to be a policy. It appears to be something that is being pushed officially. Maybe not on our side, but definitely there is some manner of understanding that, look, you go to Ghana, go and do this, go and set up this, go and do mining.
Because the system is lax.
It's too easy. Look, the machinery that we saw, how did it get into this country?
Through the ports.
Thank you.
And we have standard authority at the ports, right?
Yes. So look, there is a lot for us.
That is why on the issue of the kidnappings, I always said, if you go through each of our entry ports, whether air or by land or by sea, you have all the represented state institutions there. And many of us have been there.
Are they communicating? Are they talking?
Some of them are occupying same offices.
Are they even trustworthy?
Standards Authority, Standards Authority, Food and Drugs Authority, Ghana Immigration Service, the Customs.
Actually, now there are only 3 institutions at the ports.
Yeah, that's
this
okay.
Is one of the new things. Yeah.
I mean, for if you're taking GRA, so you have them, but you have the various representatives also there. At the end of the day, you're supposed to check the influx of people, what they bring in, etc. And if something is negative or bad, just like you find in other developed countries, in that country or for that country, that thing or human being is not made to make an entry into the country. How then do we come and by September, October, go around markets, go to Makola and go and confiscate wasp print, which are said to be competing with local textiles that were... because the thing made entry some months ago, where you have the same institutions that are taking people around, having representatives at those same border entries.
I have a source who does some work at the borders, checking import duty and making sure people pay the right duty. Now, this is somebody employed by government, part of government. And he tells me frankly that the paperless system has actually made the borders more porous in terms of bringing in whatever you like. Because now you have one document which you show to every checkpoint. So once you're able to secure the document, it doesn't matter what you are bringing in. The assumption is you've got the document, so it's been checked. In theory, all these institutions are supposed to come and visually check the thing before you get this document. But now there is only one point where you need to be corrupt. In the past, you would have to pay quite a number of different officials in order to bring your thing in. Now there's only one point of corruption, one point of weakness. You know, so, well, I don't know if it's improving revenue. Maybe it is. But in terms of how safe our borders are, we're not better off, according to my source. You know, so this is something to worry about. It's a good system. If we have a paperless system, it's good. It's supposed to be more efficient. But we need to block the other loopholes and make sure that no one person can hold our whole nation to ransom by allowing all kinds of unsavory things into the country to come and cause cancer and death. And by the way, these plastic bags, once they are produced, guess what they are used for? They are used to package the same food that you and I go and buy, whether it's Hausa kuku or you know, whatever, anything that you are buying that is presented to you in plastic. It's coming from these cancer-filled warehouses that are illegally operating as factories.
I think that instead of us applauding when these officials go around confiscating, we should be asking them why the goods got into the country in the first place, why their men are still there and they haven't done anything to them.
It's very important that we ask those questions.
Because if they are able to get by your men and then you pretend that you're going around checking and confiscating, then we should be asking a lot of questions.
You're right.
You know.
Although I don't know whether it's fair to say they are. I don't know whether it's fair to say they are pretending, because I can only speak for the interactions I have had with the Ghana Standards Authority. These things never used to happen. It's only recently that we heard, in last year, that we heard that every single cable company bringing cables into this country are bringing substandard cables in. It's only last year we discovered this. We were all building houses. We have all built houses, are living in houses. We bought cables from other parts of the world thinking we are buying the best, when there are only 2 Ghanaian companies that are meeting the standard. The rest of them are potential death traps, waiting to burn your house while your children are in it. And we didn't know this. Now, yes, we have to ask questions about how Standards Authority can be at the ports and these things still make it in. We must ask that question. But we must also acknowledge that they are doing something now that they never used to do. And what perhaps we should do is put more scrutiny on them and ensure that they do better. They don't even allow these things in the first place. And if it is a matter of resources, then we advocate for those resources to be given to them so they can do a better job. My only worry is
that Standards Authority alone can't do this. There are a lot of other people at the border.
You're right.
So if one person is correct and is doing the right thing and the others are not, it won't get you anywhere.
Yeah, sure. There has to be that synchronization. If they don't sync, then it means they are not speaking to each other.
So we see an active Standards Authority, but if we don't have an active immigration service, if we don't have, or even GRA, then
there are many things being sold on the market. People can't even read. They're full of either Chinese or other forms of languages that we have around, and people can read the information that is on the labels.
Sometimes even those who can read, but here's the thing, sometimes they change the package, they change the dates, they illegally change the dates, and then they discount the thing and they say buy 3, something that you were buying for 10 cedis for 1, they say buy 3 for 20 cedis.
Then you should get alarmed.
You know?
I saw a biscuit in my home the other day, so I decided to check. And, there was no
expiry on
expiry date. There was no expiry date. So I decided to just...
I've seen products in a
then I saw there was an expiry date
underneath.
Yes, it was nicely covered. I think they had printed white. It was already on a white section of the package.
I like these fruit snacks, and I get them from a particular shop. When I go and it's heavily discounted, I ask
you get alarmed.
Yeah, so I'm always checking the date, and I've seen that there are 3 boxes sitting there, ready to expire in March.
Not everybody will
early March
to sell them.
And they're there, and they've instead of 1 for 1 cedi 50 pesos, they're selling for 50 pesos.
If you can have somebody who can consume within the month, fine. Right? If you know that person you're selling to, that consumer you're selling to, may not be in a position, because for a normal household,
I don't know. I guess we just have to watch out and always ask for what the standard is.
Well, the standards
with those of us, look, plastics. We need to be careful. What I've seen, Mamavi, we're feeding cancer to the nation. And we won't understand it when suddenly...
What happened to the ban, the so-called ban on the use of plastic?
Politicians promised you a ban, my boy. That's what happened. Politicians.
Oh,
you remember the Minister for Environment, Science and Technology under the previous government, Mahama Yariga?
I do. I did a story. See, that's why I remember. So I did a story. I remember going to ask the cocoa seller across the streets the day they said they had banned, and she had no idea.
In fact, what they did was they announced there will be a ban. And then when the day came for the ban, they then gave us excuses why they couldn't.
Well, because there were some people who were saying they shouldn't. But the point was, and then we're also looking for alternatives. I think one of the other thing was, okay, so you sell cocoa, you put it in these bags that they say they are going to ban. In the absence of that, what is going to happen? I see that some of the outlets are using the caps, which is a good thing. But and some people insist, because we sell things on the market in Olonka and Madrin. When we say Madrin cup, there's the rubber. It comes with the rubber as well. So if you're going to ban it, what are they going to use?
But you see, that's the thing. This is the backward way in which we try to develop. We are thinking of so we want to enforce a law, okay? Now, once you enforce it, all those who are doing a particular thing become the, for want of a better word, the criminal, okay? But we are worried about what the criminal will do. What will happen to this poor criminal? We must ensure that the criminal, has options before we enforce the law.
Okay.
Okay. So it's kind of like saying, oh, if we clamp down on armed robbery, what would the armed robbers do?
No. But I don't know. I think this is extreme, isn't it?
I know. I'm deliberately using
and the criminal that you use. Yeah.
I am deliberately using an extreme example to highlight the fact that we are more concerned about what the people who are relying on this harmful practice will do.
Yeah, but what kind of education and what kind of options have you given them?
The reality
you get it.
Yes, I understand.
And it's a society. And these are ordinary persons who use these for their daily business.
However, if you ban it, are you trying to tell me that those who produce the paper cups will not take advantage of the gap in the market?
No, my point is for you to continue doing, for you to give them education. But where you go and the women have no idea. I mean, they have no idea. I mean, and markets, it's not like they're scattered. These are people that you can group and educate them and tell them effective this, blah, 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 blah. This is no longer going to be available. The use of this is harmful, is this. So this is the alternative, which is available.
To be fair, I mean, in this case, with these plastics, it was the government that chickened out. Okay? If they had gone ahead with it, if they had any intention of going ahead with it, they would have done something to educate people. Yeah. Because it's part of the process. You don't just get up and ban something. You first inform the nation, we're going to ban this. Those who are affected, you inform them and you tell them the consequences of continuing. You give some information. But nothing happened.
On this.
Yeah, nothing. And so clearly it was the government that chickened out and just failed to do what they said they would do. And it was shocking, actually, to me, to see that we let them get away with it.
All right.
Oh, this NaBCo issue.
Yes, and we all know anticipatedly, we had discussed this, asked the probing questions as to whether we're not going to have people or personnel on one program or one of the modules who could have a replicated name or the name that is going to be ghost on other modules.
So that's what happened there?
Yeah, so we have a section, only 3,000 of them. And then we already have 1,700, we're told. So who are already employed, but we have about 100,000 of them.
20% of them.
What I was trying to find out.
How many of them are there?
100,000.
Oh, not 10,000. Okay, 100,000. All right.
Is it 100,000?
Yeah.
So almost 2% of them.
So well, I'm trying to get from the story whether these people who enrolled on different programs were actually paid for a certain period before they detected. I haven't quite gotten there, so.
As you look through, I think that, one, we also have to say that if the systems are in place for them to do the detections, that's good. But then we all know that you have to do profiling of individuals who would make applications. especially within the interview process, and especially when we know that this is a government-linked program. There's also the likelihood that those who are politically attached would want to put people that they feel they can help within their domains or communities where they operate, or perhaps hold positions of responsibility and say that in the Ghanaian parlance, at the end of the day, we have to look at what has been the precedent. And we're here because we've had a problem with the National Youth Employment Program that did the transition to JIDA, and now we have YEA and where we are currently with it. We have a basic problem. The basic problem is that we have a large number of young people who are not employed. They have the skill but don't have the opportunities to turn talents that they have or what they have learned in school into some positive outputs. And if you present a scheme to them that doesn't give them the income levels or the output that they need at the end of the day, they will exploit the system, because they largely will be underemployed. And if somebody is underemployed, it means that that person is at one place and is looking for extra opportunity somewhere else. If that person is looking for extra opportunity somewhere else, that person is not going to give off his best in where he knows that he's just getting a peanut or he's getting underpaid. And ultimately, the outputs will not be recorded. That for the benefit of the module will be achieved.
So by way of updates in terms of if they've paid people who have enrolled on other
you're worried about the
other
payment.
schemes, yeah, of course, because then it means you're receiving double or triple. But they say they've got the reason they were able to detect this is because they have robust systems in checking. They validate before they make payments. So there are people who haven't been paid, I think November, December, and they're asking that if you've genuinely worked and you haven't been paid, then you should contact them and then get your monies. But according to them, they have ways of checking so that they don't double pay people. Yeah.
Do you know, so the way we are checking it is after the person has attempted to register double or has attempted to get onto NaBCo, even though they have a gainful employment and so forth, right? It is after it has happened that we then detect it through our checks, if you will, the checking the payment systems and all that. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way would simply be to register or set it up in such a way that before you register, certain checks are done, so that you can't even double register in the first place, or you can't even get onto NaBCo if you have a job. You know, that perhaps might even save us, because the chances of this payment system also missing some.
They pay through the eSwish.
The chance of that also missing some is difficult. It's high. Okay, so maybe we should make it more difficult in the beginning for people to even get on when they shouldn't be on.
I don't know how because you know there are people who sign on to this first, and then they get their national service postings, for instance. There are people who get extension in terms of the time in the national service, so they continuously get paid. But how do you, and I don't know from what point, like national service, who pays you, and NaBCo. If we have one paying point, for instance, with the same requirements, then if Kojo Singh with your name and with your ID number, which is exclusive to you, if I'm paying you twice from the same source, then I would know.
So this doesn't come through like controller and accountant general, or
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're paid through controller.
Well, we know that the budget for NaBCo is sitting at the presidency.
Right.
It's actually at the vice president's office, and so the budget is not within the normal state machinery that you find. It's
really the budget, the payment is at the vice president's office.
The budget, the allocation.
That's what I'm saying.
In the annual budget,
they allocate it to the vice president's office.
Yeah, it's parts of the program.
I mean, I know the idea came from there, but
no.
Are you saying the payments go through there?
No, I'm saying the allocation is part of the allocation. Yeah. As part of the programs with the president.
Yeah, but now
so what you're saying is that the payments go through the vice president's office?
I know that they have a separate budget. I don't know how.
That's something we can always cross-check, right? Yeah.
But I think it's.
Let's talk about Nigeria before we go.
It's also a simple process of verification. So if we know that there's a large database, we have a pool or a collection of the names, then perhaps it's the systems that we have to use in making sure that we do the background checks, and if they're okay, fine. But I don't know whether it's easy to detect. It should be easy for her to detect.
So do we know who the Nigerian president is yet?
Yeah, Muhammadu Buhari. He gets a second term. But Atiku is absolutely rejecting, his win. Yeah, that's it. But, I was just trying to learn a lot more about the two men. In terms of age, they're close, 76 and 73.
Oh, really?
The voter turnout was really low. And one of the reasons I had, people related to elections, explain, was the fact that these are, there are very young people in Nigeria. Like, the voter population is really young, even the entire population. And they thought that they were probably too far from them, like they couldn't really relate in terms of the things that, the policies they were rolling out and, that kind of thing. So people really didn't show up to vote. But Atiku and Muhammadu Buhari, they both have Fulani backgrounds. They're both from the north. They're both Muslims, except that Atiku appeals a lot more to Christians as well. So they have a lot of similarities, and from the monitoring, there's a lot of division. Because of this particular election.
Not in the north. So it looks like the north seem to have been united behind Buhari at the end of the day.
There is often a mirroring of what happens in Nigeria and what happens the following year in Ghana in terms of elections. And I had already predicted that we're likely to have a very low voter turnout in 2020, especially if the choice is between John Mahama and President Akufo-Addo. I did some very quick mathematics when we did the analysis on the day that John Mahama was made the flag bearer of the NDC. And I figured that, well, 1 million people, about 1 million people more voted for the NPP than the NDC in the last election. Now, of those 1 million people, some of them will be happy with President Akufo-Addo's performance. Some of them will not. Now, for those who will not be happy, will they consider John Mahama an alternative? After all, they rejected him in the last election. They voted for Akufo-Addo. So will they go back and vote for him? Has he done anything at all to make them feel like suddenly he can do a better job than he did the last time? So that is going to be the deciding group. And to be perfectly honest, more and more people are probably going to look at the two options and say, this is the same choice we had last time. So if they are not happy with where they are today, they will not really see the point of going to make the same choice again. So I predict a low voter turnout.
Yeah.
Unless
in 2020?
Yes, unless
well,
the EC and other institutions are able to really ginger up voters somehow.
We still have a long way to go, right? We have the rest of the year, this 2020. Yeah, so we've got a long way before December 7, 2020. So maybe things will change.
Maybe.
In Nigeria, it was less than 40. It was 35.6%, I think. Buhari got 19 of the states, and then Atiku got 17. So in terms of that, it was quite close. That's why they say they are very divided in Nigeria.
And if you look at the indicators, he's been able to clamp down somewhat on concerns about corruption, which was a big thing, a big thing in the Goodluck Jonathan government.
But I think we're hoping that he will do a lot more with security than he's done. Yes, because that was also one of the...
Even on corruption, people thought he would do more. And then, too, there's massive unemployment, and the economy is also not doing well. And it's a replica of what we have in Ghana as well. So, but the thing is, there has to be something extraordinary about messages that will be coming from the opposition party, if it's and it will be the NDC, of course, that will make people make that compelling choice of a switch. Right. And that message should be compelling enough to say that maybe there'll be some drastic changes in attitudes, in behaviors towards government. I think that those are some of the basic things.
Right. Well, speaking of elections, we here in Ghana, of course, we want a peaceful election in 2020, and that's why here at the JoyNews channel, we have our own campaign going. The hashtag is Disband Party Militias Now. Here's a little clip to remind you of why this is important.
Like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fond names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism.
The NCC will continue to condemn, name and shame all political parties who endorse, support, sponsor and or identify themselves with any of these groups until these groups are disbanded in word and in deed.
Political parties must be made, compelled either by law, to immediately disband these groups. Not only disband the groups, disarm the groups.
Coming from my own experience in Liberia and what I saw, and my family, some family members actually fought in the war, and some died in the process. You know, people died, friends of mine died, and it touches everyone. I mean, when a situation comes, it doesn't know party colors, it doesn't know the color of your skin, what you're wearing, it doesn't know anything. This is not on, and we cannot, as a people, allow it to go on.
I believe that the time has come for us as a political class to say that this development is not good for the future of this country. We need to collectively stand up against this, development. That is what we politicians collectively must resolve to avoid, because nobody knows who the next victim will be.